Improving your S&OP process effectiveness means going beyond a one-size-fits-all approach to demand planning. It requires understanding the different types of demand that drive your business and then planning accordingly. In this video, I'll break down these demand types and explore how each contributes to a more accurate, accountable, and understandable demand plan. Well, how would I break my S&OP family into a level of granularity that supports applying the right method of demand planning in the right situation to improve accuracy? Well, there's really 4 different types of demand that you can think about for breaking down that family plan. Flow demand, dependent demand, intelligent demand, and abnormal demand. Let's start with flow demand. This is what we often think of when we're talking about forecasting. The basic premise is that history is the best indicator of what's going to happen in the future. Typically, this is going to be demand that's spread across many customers and many small individual orders. Typically, this is for products with a certain level of maturity or a history of demand and are fairly standard, not engineered to order, and often it involves the make-to-stock items. Because we can use history and each transaction is only a small part of the overall demand, we can apply statistical forecasts to develop a future forecast. We may apply a seasonal index to the forecast and potentially some future growth plan, but the basis of this demand plan is the historically based statistical forecast. This brings us to our second type of demand, which is the dependent demand. This is demand that can be derived directly from our customer's forecast or their build plan. This might be when you're supplying components to a sister plant or to a large OEM. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to do a significant amount of work in the automotive industry here in North America. The Tier 1 parts suppliers received their demand via EDI from their customer. This included a shipping plan as well as a future forecast demand. And this was derived from the flow rate at the OEM. In that case, it really made no sense for us to go out and do a statistical forecast on top of the demand that we received from the OEM. We should be able to calculate or treat this as dependent demand and then validate the actual demand against the forecast to improve this demand plan collaboratively with our customer, versus second-guessing and reforecasting the demand. This brings us to intelligent demand. Now, you might have a hard time calling any demand signal intelligent, but bear with me as I break it down. This is very similar to dependent demand, but intelligent demand really applies if you have a significant customer that's typically a distributor or a retailer that is stocking your product for resale. Think about Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, large box stores. Here, we can use a demand planning method like the consumption model, where we have access to the sales in to the retailer and the sales out using POS data, as well as access to what their inventory planning is. And this allows us to calculate the demand we expect from our customer. With access to those 3 pieces of information, once again, it doesn't make sense to statistically forecast the data, as it will not account for the inventory plans at the retailer level. So, I might have a demand stream for flow, a demand stream for dependent demand, and a demand stream for intelligent demand. Well, that brings us finally to abnormal demand. What is abnormal demand? Well, we can also call this lumpy demand or project demand. This is demand that's driven by a smaller number of transactions for a larger amount or quantity on the individual transaction. Think about this like a large ETO project or even some configure-to-order items. Typically, we're dealing with longer lead times and longer sales cycles. In this case, you want to manage your demand plan. Because of the lumpiness or intermittent nature of demand, you want to pull opportunity data from tools such as your CRM tool. Statistical forecasting will not work for this type of data. Assigning probabilities and calling projects either in or out of the plan is critical. If you're just getting started, I would recommend determining what fits into either the flow demand or the project demand or abnormal demand. This is the simplest starting point. If you can exclude those large orders, those projects, the lumpy demand, you'll end up with a better statistical forecast because you'll have the smaller, more consistent orders. This means determining what quantity or dollar level an order should be in order to be considered a project. You can then forecast that flow demand. And then using a method where you pull in your CRM data or data from some other source, you can then manage those projects. So, I covered a lot here in this video. A good S&OP process ultimately should lead you to generating better demand plans. First, you have to make sure you get all the elements required to get a complete demand plan: bookings, shipments, and backlog. Then, assign the proper accountability and segment the demand plan by different types so that you can track or measure where your biggest challenges are. Then, applying the right forecasting or planning methodology, you can develop the better demand plan over time. It won't be perfect when you get started, but you can improve it over time. Learn more about how S&OP can transform your business with our Clarity Compass, a free 3-minute scorecard available on dbmsys.com. This will provide you with valuable insights into your current process, highlighting some of your key strengths and areas for improvement. Click the link in the description to take it now. Thanks for watching today's video. Subscribe to our channel for more on implementing S&OP. You can learn more about how DBM can take your process to the next level by visiting our website, www.dbmsys.com. Thank you and take care.